Good evening. I want to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners and welcome you. I can't tell you how happy it makes all of us to look out and see a room full of people. It's so nice to be around folks again. So thank you for coming. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by... That's okay. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Police Chief Bill Carter.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Our invocation tonight by the Wendell Council of Churches, we're going to hear from Pastor George Fuller of the Wendell Christian Church.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so
much. Good evening.
For
so glad to be here.
We're happy to have you.
Wendell Christian Church is just over on 421 Maddox Street, just off of Wendell Boulevard. Our tradition is called Christian Disciples of Christ. Before I came to our tradition, I thought it was because they thought they were the only ones that were Christian. And it turns out it's the opposite. Our tradition says that there's really no separation between all the different varieties of being Christian. And so we're already in fellowship with all Christians as far as we understand. And if you come to our church any Sunday, you can take communion with us and enter into following and worshiping and becoming the Christians that we're all intended to be. And we love how we learn from all of our brothers and sisters. One of the ways that finds expression is right now, anyone's welcome to come Wednesdays at noon. And this Wednesday will be the first one in person. We're also on Zoom. But we're studying a book called Prayer, Finding the Heart's True Home. And it has 21 chapters. It's 21 different ways to pray. And you'll see that those ways of praying come from different traditions. And so we're really learning the variety of ways to connect with Christ. And if anybody would like to join us, just come on Wednesday at noon. And right now we're asking people if they want anything to drink or eat to bring it themselves. Eventually we'll hope to prep it. We're really glad to be here. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Lord, I thank you that in the midst of this moment, before the sacred work of this body is done, that we can stop as you invite us to in any moment and remember that you love us, remember that you dwell within us, remember that we have been made, our bodies, our brains, our minds, our spirits, to hear from you, and we've been invited to follow you. So as this body does its sacred work this evening, thank you for this moment to pause. This morning, children woke up looking forward to the day. Some may have been dreading the day. There were also parents waking up in the morning looking for the ways to find the resources to build the home and provide everything for those children to reach their potential. Some of us that aren't so young woke up wondering if we would have enough for later, if we would be alone. And I know that this body considers all of that. So I ask that you would be with them in their hearts and minds and with all the deliberations. Because even though we come here desiring to be one community, we're different people. And so we need your love, a love big enough to help us all find a way to build a community together so that those children wake up every morning looking forward to all you have for them. Parents have the resources they need to provide for their children. And the rest of us, no matter how old we get, will never feel useless or alone. It's a mighty big task to take, but I thank you that these take it seriously and that they've indeed given themselves to serve us. Thank you for their service. Help them in their faithfulness to find more of what you want for us and remind us of the grace all along the way. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you again for being with us tonight. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? We have a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
All right, we have a motion to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move into our public comment period. The public comment process has been provided tonight either in person or in advance of the meeting. The public had the opportunity to submit written comments to the town clerk or were able to submit a request to participate via calling in the conference by emailing their name, address, and phone number to the clerk by this past Friday at 5 p.m. Or to come in person, as some folks have tonight, and sign up here tonight, as has always been our habit. You still have 3 minutes to speak. We had no emails, but we do have 2 signed up. The first is Paul White.
My name is Paul White. I'm a longtime resident of the community, and I run the local car dealership, Universal Chevrolet. And I'd like to make a few comments in regards to 6D, which approval for vehicle leasing agreement, which y'all going to talk about tonight. My point would be that I object to Wendell going to an outside entity to do something that could be done locally or without the local place. And this, let me clarify something. This isn't about money or profit, because the dealings that Universal's had with the town in the past were not about that. They were about looking after our community, and it still is. My objection is that I kind of found out of this by back door, and I don't think that Universal's had the opportunity to try to match what you're trying to do with an outsider that's not a member of the community, that doesn't pay tax here. I'm not fully convinced that there's a full understanding about leasing. When you lease a vehicle, you're going to save cash flow, but it's not actual money saved in the long-time purchase of the vehicle. It is cash flow. And I looked at what was on the minutes for the night, and I had several comments. I think that what's on there should have been projected out for more than the 4 years, because if you look at your last one, you'll see it goes into a loss. I think it'll go into a bigger loss when you carry it forward from that point, being at the end of the 4th year, you'll have to release the first ones. Then you'll have, but you're comparing the purchase price of a vehicle to a 1-year lease on the first line. I'm not sure this is being looked at completely. When we got into it, we did make an approach. Came back to Universal was that because we couldn't do a full representation of all the vehicles, our bid wouldn't be looked at. Since then, I made arrangement to look at everything, which includes the police vehicles, the Fords. And I would like us to have the opportunity. If the town can save money, I have no objection to it. But if it's not saving money, I think things should stay local. Thank you for your consideration.
The next person is Regina Harmon.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Regina Harmon, 6616 Tails Branch Road. It's so good to be back in this building. So good to see all of you guys. This is kind of last minute. I'm sorry about that. I would have tried to get on the agenda to bring it up, but I wasn't sure if I was going to have the resources to be able to do this. 4th of July parade. I've had a lot of people calling me, asking me, texting me to do something for 4th of July, and I told them that we had to go through the town to get the street shut down and everything like that. And being that we only have this meeting and the next meeting before the 4th of July parade comes up on Sunday, I was able to get some help that is willing to help me put this thing together within the 3 weeks that needs to be done. I am hoping that you guys will throw it into your agenda tonight and give us permission to shut the streets down on Sunday between 2 and 4, if that's possible. We can do it after church, right in the middle of the afternoon. I can make sure I handle everything. My staff at the general store is willing to help out. I've already got some citizens that's willing to help out. A few phone calls that I made before coming in here today just to make sure that we could, get this done in a timely manner to bring back some just excitement and community spirit in the downtown Wendell area. So I do hope that you will put it on your agenda, throw it in there tonight, and give us an opportunity to do that between 2 and 4 on Sunday, July the 4th. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item Section 4 is recognitions, reports, and presentations. Item 4A is the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization Northeast Study final briefing and endorsement. And we're going to hear from Planning Director Brian Coates.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The first item before you tonight from Planning is Brandon Watson with Campo is going to give an overview on the final briefing of the Northeast Area Study. They've been before you a couple times during this process, and so I'm going to share this PowerPoint that Brandon has created. You're going to hear Brandon through Uber Conference. At the end of the PowerPoint, if you do have any questions, please let him know.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
We can, thank you. Thank you for being with us tonight.
All right. Thank you all for having me this evening.
Give us one moment, Brandon.
Yeah, no problem.
There we go. Okay. If you want to proceed, please
All
proceed.
right. Perfect, thank you. So I'm Brandon Watson with the Capital Area NPO, and thanks for allowing the time tonight to talk to you. Going to give a final update of the Northeast Area Study update. Next slide, please. We previously updated you all over the last year, and we were here in January to give our second board briefing. So I'm just going to briefly highlight everything that was done and our final products. Next slide. If you recall, we started the project in February of 2020, last year, with existing conditions, and we had our first public engagement touch point last summer. So started public engagement right as COVID was hitting, so most of it has been virtual. The second phase was to analyze where we met with stakeholder and technical team members. And then our last phase is finishing up now, where we held our second round of public engagement. Next slide. So next, regarding the last engagement period, we had a virtual open house in late February and early March of this year. The open house, interactive map, and survey were available 24/7 for 3.5 weeks, and it's all still viewable through the project website. Next slide. And this slide shows a summary of visitors to the tent, the open house tent that we had. Hopefully you all got a chance to check that out. It was kind of new for us as well. We had more than 700 unique visitors who accessed the virtual open house. 300 surveys were completed in this round alone, and we received over 50 comments and 150 points added to the interactive map. In Wendell in particular, we had over 18% of the surveys, so I really appreciate all of your help in helping us get the word out. And then that bottom chart just shows the project website with almost 1,500 unique visitors. Next slide. Each of the questions we asked in the survey were focused on prioritization and implementation, as you can see here, and they were framed as ranking or rating from least important to most important. So we combined and averaged all the answers, and they gave us a starting point for prioritizing projects. We then folded in, as you can see on the right, the MTP Horizon Year, which has funding considerations, and then we also took into consideration future year deficiency analysis. So what do we need now and what do we need in the long term? Next slide. There's a few resources I want to highlight. One is a separate document, the summary of public outreach. The next is policy guidebook, and it builds on a previous effort from the 2014 study. It reviewed adopted policies and plans for what's changed and what's still recommended, and it also took into consideration most recent best practices. And then last is a project workbook, which I'll go through real quickly here. This is just the table of contents shown here, and I'm going to go quickly through the chapters to give you a brief idea. Next slide. The first chapter was just the context, including this is an update. We have 11 communities involved with the project and what the study boundary is. Next slide. The next chapter is just the planning framework and really is all about the process. It includes our outreach tools and the guiding technical and stakeholder advisory groups. Next slide. The next one was our regional snapshot, which is basically an existing conditions analysis, looking at what's there now and what does the data predict is going to happen moving forward. Next slide. And then we had a scenario planning chapter, which is really what we focused on when we came to you in January and to tell you about. and that was just our land use and growth strategy. We basically just played a what-if game about development and redevelopment in your community through a variety of exercises with the stakeholder and technical teams. Next slide. And then chapter 5 includes hotspots and concept design. So we looked at 5 unique corridors selected through a data-driven process. We looked at what could be improved in the near and midterm, and the most important part is these corridors could be used in other locations. So these hotspot concept designs we looked at to address locations that have a unique challenge, and they could include elements such as bicycle pedestrian concerns, complete streets, development and redevelopment, safety or other issues, and they really represent up to 20% preliminary engineering design. So we had 3 rounds of meetings for each location with local staff and NCDOT division and engineering staff. This one is just a new access to US 1 at Stadium Drive in Wake Forest, considering the closure of access with NCDOT's US 1 freeway project. Next slide. The second one is in Wendell, so I'm going to spend just a little bit longer here. This is Rollsville Road, and this one at I-87, this one ranked high on our list of potential projects for a hotspot, mainly due to safety issues in the area, high vehicle queues and delay, and the future year traffic volumes over the capacity of the road. So there were already previous MTP projects in the area to widen Rollsville Road. And once we started looking at the area, the real challenge here was there's really only one on-ramp eastbound and one off-ramp westbound. So we looked into providing all movements at this location. As you can see here, the project team envisioned an off-ramp over to Coyote with an on-ramp to go the opposite direction. And then with eastbound, there's an off-ramp added with an on-ramp shift to get full motion out of the interchange. During the study, there were discussions about the Wake Tech property, and we received and included the draft concept plan, as well as discussion of other potential developments. So there's a lot of moving parts over here, it sounds like. The eastbound and on and off ramps were adjusted and pulled in as far as possible to minimize impacts to the Wake Tech campus, as shown on the draft concept plan here. But after meeting with Wake Tech to discuss it, it was determined that any impact in that area is probably not feasible with the way they have the current plans. So we've included the design as shown, but have noted that the eastbound side would be feasible. But even with just the westbound addition, we would anticipate benefit to the interchange. The proposed recommendation has been included as an interchange improvement to be studied further if moved into project development. There's obviously some challenges there with that Wake Tech East campus, so anything moving forward to adjust or modify this to maintain it would be great. Along with the ramp additions, driveways were realigned, allowing for more signalized intersections, and then Rollsville Road is showing here as a future 4-lane median divided with turn lanes in some places along with the side path. Considering the full interchange may not be achievable due to developments coming in, we also included a recommendation for improving the intersection to the south at Wendell Boulevard as a continuous flow interchange, as well as some network adjustments south of the intersection. Next slide. The third one we have here is along Proctor Road and Zebulon, providing more crossing opportunities, consolidating driveways, and improving safety with a roundabout on one end and an intersection improvement project to the east. And then next slide. And then last here is in Youngsville along NC 96 between Longmill and Park Avenue. And really, we were just looking to integrate the frontage and backage road concept while also increasing safety and still allowing access along US 1 once that freeway project begins. Next slide. Oh, this is actually the last one, is US 64 Business in Nightdale, pretty close to Wendell. And we looked at safer pedestrian crossings and building parallel routes to connect properties to help build a local street network. Next slide. And then, so as far as the roadway and freight goes, we ended up with almost 360 roadway projects split out by different improvement types, including widenings, as you can see here, new locations, access management, grade separation, and intersection realignments to improve safety. So one key project or two key projects in Wendell wanted to talk about include Wendell Valley Boulevard, new location, and multimodal considerations, and then also the Eagle Rock Road widening with intersection improvements and a future side path. Next slide. Once we had all of the recommendations, we went out for public comment. We had the survey in there about priorities. So all the recommendations were placed into 3 buckets of priority: near, mid, and long term. And you can see here on the map the near-term projects in green that would have the greatest impact in the short term. Next slide. Moving on to transit, first mile, last mile solutions, that's a low-hanging fruit to consider right now. Micromobility is a really popular idea right now as well, such as the Northeast Wake County microtransit study moving forward. And then increasing frequency and weekend service improvements, cost-effective near-term solutions. In the midterm, some additional extensions like extending bus service to Franklinton and Youngsville, also support for passenger rail in the northern corridor through the S-line. We have here the ZWX extension also to the Eastern Regional Center that came up, as well as new service to the Wake Tech campus. And then the long-term BRT extensions to Knightdale and Wake Forest. As we were discussing additional service to Wendell Falls and Wake Tech campus, we talked about a Wendell circulator route as well. So we did include that as a long-term recommendation to kind of link up the downtown Wake Tech campus and Wendell Falls. And then we also had a circulator route between the Nice towns. There was a strong desire to be able to link up the towns. And then lastly was East Trans. That is a rail line through Knightdale, Wendell, and Zebulon, and still a big interest in Eastern Wake County. Next slide. And then last, but certainly not least, we have the walking and biking map, which was majorly about connectivity. We wanted to demonstrate flexibility, so we broke the projects into 4 categories. We have a complete street urban that addresses the need to retrofit where we can to serve all modes. We have a street redesign on road, looking at improvements within the existing curb, like a sidewalk, or like a bike lane or share. The third one, we got a lot of feedback on about how much it would improve safety, and that street redesign off-road. So think of improvements outside the curb, but inside the right-of-way, like a side path. And then last, we had a greenway and trails. And those are more of an off-road network that could include utility easements or whatnot. One particular one I wanted to highlight is Hollybrook Road that came up. We had a virtual meeting, particularly for Wendell during the last public engagement period. We got a lot of great feedback, and one was about Hollybrook Road. We added that in as a complete street project because it was apparent that there's the need to, we talked about providing, that walking and biking ability between the senior center, library, and the new park through there. Next slide. And then throughout the project, we heard over and over, people want more walkable and bikeable communities. Regional connectivity is important, but it's also important to be able to walk down the street like that Hollybrook connection. So with the recommendations, we generated a new project from open house feedback, and then we identified locations where even a small improvement can make a big difference. We had over 300 walking, has them the same way as the roadway. Bicycle pedestrian accommodations were also explored and included where applicable for all of the roadway project recommendations. Next slide. And this is the last slide here. So I really wanted to go full circle. When we started this project, showing the graph on the bottom right, I wanted to reiterate how all local land use and transportation plans, as well as area studies such as this, flow up into informing the prioritization of projects based on funding for Tampa's region-wide metropolitan transportation plan, which is in the update process right now. So we took into consideration Wendell's arterial and collector street plan, the pedestrian plan, and the comprehensive plan to make sure we had everything in there. These update workbook, including an appendix with a list of all of the recommendations, the public engagement summary, and the policy guidebook are all up for review on Campo's website now. There will be a public comment period starting in July, with the study to be taken to the TCC and Executive Board for consideration and endorsement in August. We're also conducting final board briefings now, looking for your endorsement of the NEAS update study to be considered for future planning efforts, including the 2050 MTP. My contact information is here as well, so feel free to reach out with any questions or comments, and I really appreciate all of your help throughout the study, especially Mayor Gray helping us with the stakeholder oversight team. Really appreciate all of the feedback and help in getting out the word to everybody.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the board? Yes, this is Commissioner Joyner.
Hey, Brent. So I see in the hotspot for Wendell, Rollsville Road, there's some fixes up around the interstate, which I certainly appreciate. Also, picking up on, this has been a long-running process. Wake Tech didn't enter the game until recently, so I hope we can get the best possible outcome. We only have one highway interchange, and I think it's important to get that right, and certainly go back to the maps to make sure we have everything drawn correctly. The other piece that I'd say is that I used to say that these big studies don't have any impact directly, and you know, it's fine, just pass it. It's closer to where we want to be than where we are today. And you won't find a bigger proponent of traffic circles. I enjoy them. I think that they work well. But just wanted to highlight for the rest of the board, that also closes Eagle Rock Road. And it brings me back to when I learned that these long-range plans were important, because we ended up paying DOT and/or someone else a little over $146,000 because literally a traffic improvement that is 100 feet from this intersection never got built, and it was a conceptual plan, and we put a bunch of money into it. So I'm good with getting behind plans and encouraging plans. You know, I think with our congressional representation right now, we're well positioned to get our plans funded and pushed along. But I'd love to hear a little bit more of and the answer maybe there's not more thought process to it right now. But I'd love to hear more about the thought process of Eagle Rock Road and then how we coordinate. It's listed as a hot spot. From reading the rest of the report, this would be one of the first things to go if anything went. I know we have the mayor there advocating at Campo for us, but we'd just like to, I guess, understand what this being listed as a hot spot with these designs means to us moving forward.
So I'll take the first stab at that question. The hotspot study, the Rollsville Road I-87 was chosen because of pedestrian accidents and just crashes in general. It came up under the top 10 intersections in the Northeast study. We sat down with DOT, Campo staff, the consultants from Stantec, and started looking at current development, future development, and how things could line up. DOT is a major player in that. As some developments occur, especially entrances into Wake Tech, there's a lot of DOT policies on how far traffic signals need to be from each other. This area, current driveways, future driveways will not meet any of those criteria. So we have to really work with Campo, DOT, developments that will be submitting or coming through the process to make sure things can be lined up. For example, Wake Tech is doing a TIA that's in review currently. There's also a mixed-use project on the northwest corner of Rollsville Road and I-87 that's doing a TIA. For the Wake Tech entrance on Rollsville Road, you want to get it as far as you can from the interchange ramps. You only have so far because we have a traffic signal at Wendell Boulevard in Rollsville. The I-87 off-ramp lines up perfect for a mixed-use entrance for their development, which changes where improvements will be made from this draft. What we found throughout this process is we need to continue working with all of our partners to come up with a better design for that half of interchange. It may not ever be a full interchange, but just one example, if redevelopment were to occur at the car deal at Leith, that would be a perfect opportunity for us to relook at that interchange and see if we could include any more improvements if that site's ever redeveloped. So we'll continue working with all the agencies. The 2050 MTP plan, every 4 or 5 years, we'll be updating those plans. The improvements are not going to happen anytime soon unless they are made by development at this time. DOT does not have plans to themselves widen Rollsville Road or I-87 in that section currently. Eagle Rock Road, I will address when Brandon mentioned Wendell Valley Boulevard. Currently, it's under construction in Wendell Falls to end at Eagle Rock. Our long-term vision is for that road to cross the tracks and line up with Rollsville Road. And so that is now included in the Northeast area study that was not previously shown as a connection. One of our major priorities as that area develops is to get traffic from Wake Tech area to Wendell Falls, and they're not going on Eagle Rock or back on the interstate, have that local service road, which is Wendell Valley Boulevard in the future. Both projects are identified, one, to keep looking at the interchange, but then trying to maneuver how we expand Wendell Valley Boulevard by development or by municipality such as us or NCDOT for improvement. So those projects are in the Northeast study, will be part of the 2050 MTP plan, but they're going to still need a lot of work to get to a place where they're going to be constructed.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board?
So the Campo staff is looking for an endorsement.
Yes.
You don't have to do it at this meeting. You could do it at the next meeting, whichever you're comfortable with. If there's additional questions, we can answer them between now and the next meeting as well.
Do any of you have additional questions, or are you comfortable going ahead and providing an endorsement of the study for Campo staff tonight?
I have additional questions, but I'm also confident that the additional questions will persist. And given that the report is printed and all that they're asking for is an endorsement up or down, I certainly don't want to let my questions that will persist regardless keep it from getting an endorsement. So happy to make a motion, Madam Mayor, to endorse the.
All right, so we have a motion to endorse the Northeast area study. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Was that everyone? Anyone opposed?
Thank you all. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon.
Thank you all.
All right, let's move into our public hearings. The public comment process for our public hearings tonight was provided, will be either in person or in advance of the meeting. The public had the opportunity to submit written comments to the town clerk, or were able to submit a request to participate by calling in the conference, by emailing their name, address, and phone number to the clerk by this past Friday again. The board will take action on these public hearings at our next meeting on June 28th. And the public also has 24 hours after tonight's meeting to submit written public comment to the town clerk, and anyone who wishes to speak has 5 minutes to speak. Item 5A is a public hearing on a text amendment to the UDO for a billboard sign location and requirements. I'm going to hear again from Mr. Coates.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This first public hearing, as you mentioned, is UDO text amendment. And give me one moment. Get there. So this first item is a public hearing on text amendment ZTA 2104 to the UDO for billboard sign locations and requirements. Item summary: in 2017, Fairway Outdoor Advertising expressed an interest in constructing an electronic billboard along US 64, which is now I-87. Company noted they constructed a similar electronic billboard in Rollsville near their new bypass. At the time, Chapter 12 of the UDO prohibited billboards of any type. As a result of these regulations, the applicant submitted a zoning text amendment to allow electronic billboards, which included specific standards related to their size, height, location, and operation. At that time, the applicant proposed specific language as part of the amended request. In general, the applicant's proposal allowed electronic billboards in the community center zoning district along US 64 I-87. Such signs would have a 3-mile separation requirement from other electronic billboards and would be from 12 to 50 feet in height and have a sign face of up to 672 square feet. That billboard was constructed along I-87, is there today. If you drive on the highway, you will see it as you approach the Coyote facility, or if you approach that area from the east, or from the west. The applicant, Aaron Guyton, is here tonight of Capital Outdoor, has requested that the UDO be amended to allow digital emergency, community, and business communication along Wendell Boulevard. The applicant proposes to amend section 12.7D7 of the UDO to allow appropriately placed digital messaging centers while also limiting their use on certain roadways. Existing spacing requirements will need to be modified in order for this to occur. As a cleanup, staff is proposing to amend section 12.9 of the UDO to delete billboards from a list of prohibited signs, as they are no longer prohibited as long as you meet the regulations. Planning Board was ultimately presented with 3 different text amendments for billboards. Option 1 was the applicant's original proposal. Option 2 was some staff recommended adjustments for the Planning Board. Option 3 was an amendment based on discussions with the Planning Board and with the applicant. Planning Board chose option 3 as the basis for their vote. Here's the potential location in the front yard here of Vardy's. This is the Vardy facility. Chart House Drive is to the west. There's a current storage building under construction there currently. Option 1, just to give you a little overview of some of the options. Option 1 that was proposed by the applicant added NC zoning districts to a list of zoning districts that allow billboards, removed some language prohibiting billboards along US 64, Wendell Boulevard, reduced spacing requirements from 3 miles to 2 miles, and allowed for lesser plantings around that billboard. Option 2, staff recommended and worked through some of this. We recommended not adding NC zoning district to the list of districts. Neighborhood center is kind of around our DMX and kind of in the core of the community, so planning staff was not in favor of having that neighborhood center district to have any billboards. We also added language to prohibit billboards along and facing US 64 Business, Wendell Boulevard, east of Selma, along Morphus Bridge, Lions Club, Pool Road, Selma, Martin Pond, Wendell Falls Parkway, Eagle Rock, Lake Glad, and Old Quarry, and the spacing requirement to be 2 miles. We also modified landscaping requirements to a minimum of 18 shrubs planted in the landscape area, no less than 100 square feet and maintained to the standards of the UDO, and that an approved landscape plan would be required. Setbacks, staff thought that they should be consistent with zoning district. So if other setbacks for other businesses in that example, a commercial highway district, the front setback had to be 10 feet, side and rear 4. We also thought surface area to be 400 square feet with a maximum height of 30. Option 3, which was the one planning board recommended approval on, was not to add neighborhood center zoning district, only allow billboards on I-87 and US 64 Business, Wendell Boulevard west of Selma, use a linear spacing with a separation of 1.5 miles on both sides of the road, modified the language to include a landscape plan and shrubs, setbacks, surface area to be 300 square feet and maximum height of 30. Planning Board at their May 17th, 2021 meeting, Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of the requested text amendment. The plan consistency principle 4 is the one that's closest related out of any of them, is diversify and increase the per capita tax base, provide for diverse workforce with a broad range of skills, making Wendell a more self-sustaining community. You can field any questions that you may have. The applicant is here and I know would like to speak as well.
Are there any questions from the board?
I have
few questions, Mayor.
You know what, let's open the public hearing first. Public hearing's open. All right, go. I like all that to be during the hearing.
I'm sorry, do you want me to go and speak?
Go.
Okay, gotcha. The question I had was then for the decreasing in the mileage, what was the reasoning or the thought behind that? I noticed they started at 3, then went to 2, and then went to 1.5.
So there's some existing billboards along Wendell Boulevard by SPC. And so the spacing, with using 3 or 2 miles, there would not be space along Wendell Boulevard for another one in that designated area.
So because of the boards that are already in that area, that would basically exclude any more?
Correct.
Including the digital one. Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Brian, and so I'm reading correctly, but if we were to adopt this tonight and the proposed billboard was to go up, the way I read it, unless it's on 64, maybe outside our jurisdiction, I don't see space in town for another billboard.
If this one were to go up, I believe the only location really is along Wendell Boulevard at that Vardy location or near there,
Okay.
due to the spacing requirements.
Okay. I'll just say for the record, one of the things that I've enjoyed about all of our stuff being available online is being able to listen to planning board and getting to hear planning board talk through option 1, mull over option 2, kind of staff come back, and then getting to hear that group of folks come together with option 3. It was good policy making. It sounded like sound policy making. And I felt like at every point they improved on it. When I first heard it, I had a different solution to it as well, so I think it's one of those issues that you have to work through. But with that, it achieves the things that I'm concerned about. The option 3 fixes those.
Anyone else? The applicant like to be heard?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name's Aaron Guyton with Capital Outdoor Advertising. I believe there are a couple folks that do want to make public comments, but I will start off, obviously I'm in support of this. I want to say just a few points. First of all, I give a lot of kudos to your town staff. They were thoughtful, they were responsive, and they really did a good job coming up with appropriate policy for this placement, and they should be commended. Second of all, I'd just like to say that digital billboards is smart communication, smart technology that helps the local business community, but also provides for public safety. Digital billboard networks and companies are members of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Digital billboards post Amber Alerts and help save missing children, providing for community messaging. The other component I will add is that while digital billboards help the business community, they also help the tax base of the community. We are a revenue positive business in this town, meaning that we help the business community, we pay taxes and significant taxes based on the value of our structure. NC Department of Revenue has a set schedule that what we pay, but we're revenue positive, meaning that we support the business community, but we use no water, no sewer, no police, no sanitation services, just quietly sit there and help the business community. I would ask for your support of this, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you. Any questions from the board for the applicant?
Aaron, the one you guys did over on I-87, how large was that one as far as surface area goes?
Yes, sir. That was 672 square feet. Size of billboards typically equals safety. Faster the speed limit, the larger the size is required so that the user can get the message and get their eyes back on the road. This size is going to be considerably smaller due to the speed limit that's on this roadway.
Anything else from the board?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment?
Paul White again, longtime resident, and I speak in favor of it from the fact that we have one on property that business I have owns, and I think it's been I think a billboard of this kind in the proper place can be a benefit to the community. I think the one that's out at Coyote out there has been a benefit both from advertising needed by the town or from the different things that are put on it that he was explaining. So, naturally, I'm in favor of it. Thank
Can
you.
you give us your address real quick since we're in a public hearing?
P.O. Box 980, Wendell, NC.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else? Give us your name and address, please.
My name's Brad Comer, 332 Tarragon Trail. I am the Vice President of Capital Outdoor and have been a resident of Wendell for 16 years. I wish that y'all would consider this proposal, that y'all do pass it. It does do a lot of good for the businesses in the community, and just things like Aaron said, that we are members in the Amber Alerts and things like that, they do support that. So I hope that y'all will consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Would you give us your name and address, please?
Regina Harmon, 6616 Tails Branch Road. I'm in favor of this in the location you're talking about over there at Barty's. It's a great spot. The growth coming to Wendell, you all know this because you sit on the board. It's going to be strong for the next 10 to 15 years. And it's an opportunity for the growth of Wendell to be able to share things or businesses that we have in that location coming in and going out of Wendell. So it's absolutely a wonderful spot to put a digital billboard.
Anyone else? Are there any additional questions from the board? Okay.
I just want to clarify that the Barty property is not currently in the town of Wendell's municipal jurisdiction. It's in our ETJ. So there is not a direct tax benefit to the town of Wendell as indicated by the applicant. If at some point in the future that property was annexed, at that point the town would benefit from the tax value. That's all.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? All right, we're going to close the public hearing subject to the receipt of comment for the next 24 hours. Move on to item 5B. It's a public hearing to consider multiple zoning text amendments to the UDO to comply with updates associated with 160D of the North Carolina General Statutes. And we're going to hear from planner Janine Nguira. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
I've been fretting about it. Okay, good.
Thank you, Mayor. Good
Practiced
evening.
and practiced.
Thank you for that. Okay, so public hearing on the zoning text amendments to comply with 160D. This is our fifth round, and it's going to deal with legislative decisions and quasi-judicial decisions. Most of these procedures, staff already follows them, but they needed to be codified. The proposed amendments are going to include applicable procedures for legislative decisions, zoning map amendments, providing notice not only to immediate neighbors, but also to properties separated from the subject property by street, railroad, or other transportation corridor, providing posted notice between 25 days prior to the hearing until 10 days prior to the hearing, prohibiting third-party downzonings. We need to obtain applicant or landowner's written consent to conditions in a conditional district rezoning. Following statutory procedure for all quasi-judicial development decisions, allowing parties with standing to participate fully in the evidentiary hearing, including presenting evidence, cross-examining witnesses, objecting to evidence, and making legal arguments. And also, when we're setting a 30-day period to file an appeal of any administrative determination under a development regulation, we presume that if a notice of determination is sent by mail, it is received on the third business day after it's sent. And for cleanup items, we had a section on protest petitions in the UDO, but protest petitions were abolished in 2015. So we're recommending that we remove the entire section, 15.19C, and all the references to it. And also, there's a part that's related to that in 1519D that failed to mention that if the planning board has recommended against an amendment, that the town board will need a supermajority to pass it. So, for the procedures for legislative decisions, we added language from 160D that clearly identified noticing requirements, published notice for 2 weeks for all legislative hearings, mail notice for rezonings, for expansion of ETJ and rezoning, combined hearing notice to be mailed 30 days prior, option for large-scale rezoning to take out an advertisement of a half-page newspaper, posted notice for rezonings, and actual notice for rezonings where the applicant is not the landowner. For zoning map amendments, the notice to immediate adjacent properties, but also to properties separated from the subject property by street, railroad, or other transportation corridor. We just added language from 160D to the appropriate section. Providing notice 25 days prior to the hearing until 10 days prior to the hearing. Also, we added language to the section 15.19 legislative procedures. Excuse me. Prohibiting third-party down zonings, we added language to 1519, prohibiting third-party down zonings unless the down zoning is initiated by the town, and also the definition of down zoning. As far as obtaining applicant landowners' written consent to conditions, we just added language from 160D to section 1513, conditional districts. For following statutory procedures for all quasi-judicial development decisions, we added clarifying language where it was needed, public hearing changed to evidentiary hearing, and added the language of the quasi-judicial proceeding with all findings of fact supported by competent material evidence as required by 160D. The board chair must rule at the evidentiary hearings on objections to inclusion or exclusion of administrative material, and we added language where it was appropriate that deals with the board chair or the mayor ruling on jurisdictional and evidentiary issues. Allowing parties with standing to participate fully in the evidentiary hearing. Again, we added language where it's appropriate. And the second part of the setting the 30-day file period, we just added the language to 1516 that says that if a notice of determination is sent by mail, it is received on the 3rd business day after it is sent. On their May 17th, 2021 meeting, the planning board voted unanimously to recommend approval of the 160D text amendment. And it is consistent with the comprehensive plan since it supports key principle number 9, make development decisions predictable, fair, and cost-effective. And I can answer any questions if you have any.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board? Yes.
So Janine, the requirement that this board have a supermajority if the planning board is either tied or votes against the project,
Mm-hmm.
it's a policy of this board. It's not necessarily 160D. It's a policy of ours, but since we didn't have it reflected in text, we're reflecting it.
Well, actually, so it's already in the UDO in other places, but in that section, 1519, give me 1 second, I'm sorry. It says about the town board decision, Once a public hearing has been conducted, the town board shall render a decision on a petition. All decisions shall be by simple majority vote, and then it said, unless a valid protest petition has been submitted in accordance with Section 1519C, which we took that out because that referred to the protest petitions. And it didn't say anything about, when the planning board has recommended against a proposed amendment. So we added that language.
To keep this hot section.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions from the board?
Speak from a policy perspective and just say that I think that the staff was wise to include that there, and I think it's good to have it included in policy. I think it makes for good policy.
I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak? All right. I'm going to close the public hearing, subject to the receipt of comment for the next 24 hours. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move into our administrative items now, which is a decision on a request to rezone approximately 42.75 acres from residential agricultural to residential 7 conditional district along Lions Club Road. Mr. Coates.
Yep. Good evening. The specific action before you tonight is to make a motion on the proposed conditional district request. Consider adopting the attached ordinance. The public hearing for this item was held on May 24th. And just a quick summary, the applicants requested to create an R7 conditional district from 42.75 acres to feature 98 single-family homes and 107 townhomes. And you can see the map here. It's the subdivision's located off Lions Club Road. And at this time, there has been no condition changes or any changes to the development plan since the public hearing. And the applicant is here, but we can also, if there's any questions that you may have, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board?
So nothing changed, just to clarify.
Correct. There were no changes to the development plan from the public hearing to
From last
tonight.
time.
Yep.
Madam Mayor, I have a motion.
Yep, let's hear it.
Motion to approve the rezoning request for 42.75 acres from residential agricultural to residential 7 conditional district along Lions Club Road.
And adopt the attached ordinance.
And adopt the attached ordinance, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
No.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, so 4-1. Item 6B is a decision on a non-contiguous annexation for one parcel totaling 42.75 acres located at 0 Lions Club Road.
Yep, we're asking for a motion on the requested annexation for the property, 42.75 acres at Lions Club that was just voted on for the R7 conditional district. The landowner and the applicant have submitted the annexation request, and you recently just approved the development plan, so I can field any questions you may have on the annexation.
All right, any questions from the board?
Madam Mayor, I have a motion if you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Motion to approve a non-contiguous annexation for one parcel totaling 42.75 acres, PIN 1793-26-3863, located at 0 Lions Club Road. And the attached ordinance.
Thank you. Okay, is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
No.
All opposed?
No.
Opposed? Okay, 4-1. All right, item 6C is appointments to the Town of Wendell Planning Board, Parks and Recreation Commission, and Economic Development Committee. We're going to be assisted by Town Clerk Megan Howard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. Staff requests that the board take action to appoint citizens to serve on the vacant positions for 3 boards tonight: the Planning Board, the Parks and Rec Commission, and the Economic Development Committee. Recruitment for the Town of Wendell Citizen Advisory Boards began on March 15th of this year and closed on May 21st. Communication efforts included advertising posted on the town's website, an e-board post on Wendell Boulevard, social media marketing over the course of 2 months on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, advertising posted in the town's newsletter, When in the Dell, a newspaper print ad, and print bulletin boards dispersed throughout businesses in town. 37 applications were received to fill the 15 vacancies on our 5 citizen advisory boards. Applicants that applied to multiple boards were asked to prioritize which citizen boards they wished to be considered for, and their applications were marked accordingly. Applicants that are already serving on another citizen advisory board are asked to file a conditional letter of resignation pending the appointment to a different citizen advisory board, and their applications were noted accordingly. According to the Town Board Rules of Procedure, the Citizen Advisory Board recruitment process is a voting process done by written ballot. Applicants must receive an affirmative vote from a majority of the board members present and voting to be appointed. Appointees will start their new positions on July 1st of the new fiscal year. Applicants receive letters informing them of the appointment process and were encouraged to introduce themselves at the beginning of the June Town Board meetings if they so choose. The Planning Board has 4 vacancies as follows: 2 in-town vacancies with terms lasting 3 years, 1 ETJ vacancy with a term lasting 2 years, and 1 partial in-town vacancy with a term ending June 30th, 2022. The lowest vote getter on the ballot will serve for the partial term unless there is a tie, in which case we'll do a second round of voting. Excuse me. If a majority of votes is lacking for this vacancy, a second round will take place after the applicants that received a majority vote are removed from the ballots. We did not receive any ETJ applications for the Planning Board, so this vacancy will continue to be advertised on a rolling basis, and I'll bring whatever applicants are received to the board at a later date. The Parks and Recreation Commission has 1 in-town vacancy with a term expiring June 30th, 2024 for adults, and June 30th, 2022 for youth. The Economic Development Committee has 3 vacancies available with 2-year terms expiring June 30th, 2023. And the upcoming citizen advisory boards will be filled at the next town board meeting, which is the Board of Adjustment, that has 1 ETJ vacancy and 2 in-town vacancies, and the Appearance Commission, which has 4 vacancies, 2 of which are alternate positions. The same process will be used as for the appointments considered at this meeting. Emails will be sent out informing applicants of this meeting's voting results. I will inquire with applicants that are not appointed today if they would like to be considered on the subsequent available boards that will be voted on at the next meeting, which will be the Board of Adjustment and the Appearance Commission. Any vacancies that remain will continue to be advertised, and applications will be presented to the board to fill any subsequent vacancies. So to start, I'm going to pass out the Planning Board ballots. As a reminder, we have 2 in-town regular and 1 in-town partial term vacancies that will be voted on tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a three-way tie. So I'm going to mark off all the unavailable individuals on the ballots and repass them out. If you can just put PT next to the person you wish to have on the partial term of the three available applicants, I would appreciate it. So that way we can assign the one partial term to one of the three people who that are tied right now. So 1 second.
Suspense is killing me, Mayor.
It's rough, I tell ya.
Okay. All right. We have two regular in-town positions given to Ryan Zachney and Dean Eatman. The partial term for the in-town vacancy will be given to Benjamin Griffin. Now I'm going to pass out the ballots for the Parks and Rec Commission. As a reminder, there's one in-town Parks and Recreation vacancy with a 3-year term for adults, 1 year for youth.
Thank you.
So somebody voted for 2. I'm going to have to pass these out one more time. I'm sorry, there's just one vacancy that we're voting on for the Parks and Rec Commission. So I'll pass these out one more time.
Does it affect the outcome? Does it affect the outcome?
Okay, so Thomas Gull will fill the one in-town Parks and Recreation Commission vacancy with a 3-year term. Last but not least, the Economic Development Committee. As a reminder, there are 3 vacancies with 2-year terms available. So please vote for 3 individuals. Okay, so we have Brady Adcock, Alice O. Wilkerson, and Antoine Best will be the 3 representatives for the Economic Development Committee. And I will see you guys next meeting for the Board of Adjustment and the Appearance Commission.
All right, thank you. Now, item 6D is the approval of a vehicle leasing agreement with Enterprise. We're going to hear from Assistant Finance Director Garrett Johnson. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the board. As the mayor indicated, this is a agenda item to approve a leasing agreement with Enterprise. I apologize, my formatting is not consistent with the rest, but I believe there is, the wording is, there's going to be an action to approve the agreement and authorize the town manager to sign on behalf of the town. So just an overview of the agenda item. The town is currently maintains a fleet of 47 light-duty and passenger vehicles. Basically nothing that includes your dunkel booms, your street sweepers, anything of that likeness. Staff has identified an opportunity to establish a fleet leasing program that allows for vehicles to be replaced on a more regular basis. Doing so, the town can realize some cost savings through reduced maintenance costs on account of the vehicles being utilized for their useful life and no longer than that. With new vehicles, there's also better fuel efficiency, so we can anticipate seeing a reduced fuel cost as well. Staff performed a comparative analysis of various vendors to determine what was the best option for the town. Factors considered included availability of vehicles, pricing, maintenance, and replacement. So evaluating our fleet, staff compiled a list of the current fleet on hand and determined which vehicles needed to be replaced first. Staff also determined how many new vehicles would be required to meet any staffing growth or needs. Staff created a list for fiscal 22 of 13 vehicles to be acquired in the first year of the leasing program if approved. 9 of those would be replacement vehicles of current assets. 4 would be for newly budgeted assets. And just a breakdown of departments of how that's going to be allocated. 2 administrative town hall vehicles, 4 police, 6 public works, and 1 parks and recreation vehicle. So the list of the 13 vehicles identified, as well as the future planning vehicles was distributed to Ford Credit Municipal Finance, Universal Chevrolet, and Enterprise Fleet Management. Each company provided vehicle costs on a 48-month term lease basis, in addition to costs for any maintenance or warranty programs that may be offered. First, we talked with Ford Credit Municipal Finance, and basically what that came down to was a 100% third-party financing with a $1 buyout. At the end of the term, the town would have to negotiate a vehicle price with a local dealer, and Ford Credit would simply be the financer. They would be able to provide 13 vehicles at an estimated cost of roughly $376,000, close to $400,000 after interest would be incorporated. Second, we spoke with Universal Chevrolet, a local Chevrolet dealer. They would be able to provide 100% financing at 72 months to spread out payments for lower annual payments, with the ability to trade in after a 48-month period to meet the goal of maintaining a young fleet. At the time that this presentation was submitted for agenda, Chevrolet was only able to provide 9 of the 13 vehicles requested. As Mr. Paul White indicated earlier in the meeting, they were able to acquire, or they would be able to acquire the police vehicles requested, which was not available at the time of evaluation. The 9 vehicles that were quoted at $258,847, with total cost with interest of $282,489, and I believe that is 44 cents. And finally, Enterprise. Enterprise provides a open-ended 48-month lease. They can meet all brand and vehicle type needs. There's flexibility there. They were able to meet all the needs for the 13 vehicles requested, as well as maintenance plans. The first year's payments would be $80,016. This first round of 13 vehicles, after 4 years, would cost $320,064. $301,584 of that would be the actual lease costs, with the $18,480 is maintenance plan cost, with the exception of police vehicles, which Enterprise does not offer a programmed monthly expense plan. And this is staff recommendation. Just to compare some pros and cons of Enterprise, they do provide, like I said, an open-ended 48-month lease, which was kind of what we set out to look for. There is brand flexibility. We do have the leveraging power of the state term contract for pricing. As I indicated, with the exception of police vehicles, there is a monthly maintenance plan that can be included. There's a 1% reduction in what would effectively be the highway use tax through some trade credits they can use. And we, as was indicated with the Enterprise representative, we do have the flexibility on where maintenance can be provided, as well as where the vehicles can be acquired from. So we do have the flexibility to acquire from local dealers, so long as the pricing is comparable and competitive. Some cons for Fleet Enterprise is, again, they can't offer emergency response vehicle maintenance plans. There is a disposal fee of $399 per vehicle. This fee is subtracted from any trade-in values that might be available on the car, the vehicle. We can also opt out of this if the town were to use the GovDeals auction website, which we have historically used, and with that, fees are typically pushed to the winning bidder. Just a little breakdown of the leasing model. The 47 vehicles that are currently on hand would be replaced over a 4-year span. Non-police vehicles would be replaced in the first 4 years. Police vehicles would take 8 years to replace everything that is currently on hand. The leasing model does make certain assumptions in the growth of staff, and leasing costs would include the cost of leasing the vehicle over 48 months, a monthly maintenance plan where applicable. And it might be a little bit small for you guys to see, but this is just a breakdown of the annual leasing and upfit costs versus if we were to purchase and upfit these same vehicles over the 8-year plan, with a savings shown of $1.1 million over the 8 years. So staff is requesting that the Board of Commissioners approve the master agreement with Enterprise and authorize the town manager to sign on behalf of the town of Wendell. Any amendments that were necessary as reviewed by the town manager have been integrated and agreed to by Enterprise. Before we come to questions, I just wanted to thank the public works staff. They were very involved in this evaluation process as well. So thank you to Brian Bray and Daryl Hales. And with that, I will open to any questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
One,
Yeah.
Here, can you get back 2 slides to the numbers?
Yes, sir.
And you're correct, I might need someone in helping me read that far side. The document that was included in our budget packet went to, I believe, 2026. It didn't go past 2026.
That may have been a preliminary model that has since been updated.
That was the information in the budget with the 5-year capital improvement plan. So if you're just looking at it from a 5-year capital improvement plan, those numbers, looking at the full lease term of 8 years to replace out all the vehicles, that's your, you can see that savings continues through the whole lease process, is equivalent to 1.115 mil.
I guess my follow-up to that would just be, when we get, so like I don't see a number higher than, 20 in 2026, but eventually the number on the left side of the screen would be 47 vehicles that were, like eventually our entire fleet would be in there.
After the full 8 years that are listed, all 47 vehicles would have been replaced at least once, with the then addition of this model programmed an additional 2 police vehicles that would typically just be associated with the staffing growth, because each officer is going to need a vehicle to operate out of.
So my question is truly wanting to get down to what the actual numbers are.
Okay.
And on the left-hand side, when we're looking at the lease numbers, theoretically, if it's a 4-year lease, in 2030, we'll have 20 vehicles that are on their last year of their lease coming out of 2026. 13, so I guess, and we're on the hook for that the day we go into the lease. So I see what you do on the right side in subtracting out 12 months of a lease from the cost of the vehicle over a year. But on the left side, I think it should reflect the whole cost of the lease, because once we pay for the car on the right side, we're done. It's ours. But on the left side, we signed a 4-year lease on a vehicle. So just because the cost to us won't come in until 2030, 2031, it's not reflected. So it's not apples to apples.
Yes, sir.
In the comparison in my mind.
Sure. So that cost would only really be effective if after these 8 years we decided we don't want to continue this program. We're just going to let whatever, as you indicated, whatever outstanding leases age out, and the savings would effectively go down from 1.1 million to about 515,000 if we were to just end the program entirely. You'll never really see that as long as you continue the program, because each year is going to have that large savings per year. So you benefit from the longevity of the program.
Yeah, and I certainly appreciate that. Attempting to get an apples to apples comparison, it doesn't seem.
To clarify, that's
the full lease amount is in the total lease column. And if you bought the same vehicles in that year, that's in the total purchase cost. So that's an apples to apples to acquire the car. That's leasing formerly new leased vehicles. So that is an apples to apples cost comparison during that time period.
On an annual basis, that is correct, yeah.
Right, and I completely get where this frees up cash flow, but it just, seeing 14 vehicles that theoretically are in year one of a lease, it would, I mean, I understand we're gonna have to keep vehicles, I get that. But comparing it to, I think they're fundamentally different. So I appreciate, this is the first time I've seen numbers past 2026. I appreciate being able to see more of the numbers. That's helpful. Given, I'm assuming other board members haven't seen numbers past 2026. And I've certainly voted for the budget and appreciate the concept of leasing. It's not something that I've dealt with a lot in the past, admittedly. It kind of seems like getting on a hamster wheel. That said, we're gonna have to be on a road one way or the other. So I understand that. I do think that the further we get into the lease, the more committed we're gonna have to be to a lease forever. Given that there's not a ton of companies that do fleet leasing, specifically in a finance model that works for local governments. Pair that with Mr. White coming and speaking tonight, it sounds like he's got the ability to make an offer. I don't know, the other question I had at the beginning was, it seemed like Ford gave you an answer to a question, and it sounded, based on their answer, it sounded like the question was, we need to buy 13 vehicles, what will it cost us to buy 13 vehicles this year? And not necessarily, we'd like to pursue leasing as a different form of fleet management. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, sir. So, they advertised it as a fleet lease purchase program. They structured it to meet governmental needs by putting that $1 buyout. So once we had the meeting with our regional representative with Ford, we realized that what they kind of advertised was not what we were ultimately looking for in a program.
I would, so this is a newer portion of finance to me. I completely get where it gives us cash availability. I can see the savings on the page. I guess the flip side of the coin is, if this is such an amazing idea, why weren't we doing it when Commissioner Boyette and I were arguing over a $50,000 vehicle 5 years ago? Like, if it was this open, dishonest. The other piece is, I haven't experienced a lot of other communities doing yet, so it's just new in my book. I'd ask that we take, at least until the next meeting, see what other, give us an apples to apples on whatever Mr. White has he can put together. And your question seems to be that you framed it to Ford correctly, but my understanding was, when we voted on the budget, we were going to vote on either buying vehicles or leasing them. We voted to lease. So now we're pursuing that. I appreciate that there's options there, but it seems like Enterprise answered one question, Universal answered a hybrid question, and Ford answered how much the 13 vehicles cost. So happy for you guys to, happy to do whatever the will of the body is. Those are my thoughts on it. I spent a fair amount of time trying to understand the cost piece, and it's a moving target for me. And I'd love to see those numbers on something on my device.
Sure. I have those numbers in front of me. I can read them off to you, but I understand if you want to have them.
I just want to be able to
Yes, sir.
use a calculator and
Sure.
make it all add up.
Quick question. Was Enterprise?
Yes, sir.
You're allowed to pick from any model or make, any brand? Is that what the options are?
Yes, sir. So we have pretty much total brand, make, model flexibility.
And if we have a good vehicle, are we allowed to keep it at the end of the term? If we find it's a good one we want to keep, or have we thought of that?
We would be able to keep the vehicle. We would have to, effectively, we're leasing 75 to 80% of the vehicle. That is what our 48 monthly payments puts equity into. So there would be that latent, the leftover equity we would have to cover.
Just curious.
If we choose to keep the
If you
vehicle.
pick a good brand that's got good quality, you might want to keep it.
Sure.
I would just point out that on average, if you go beyond that percentage that we're looking at in the life of a vehicle, you're adding
Maintenance costs.
costs on average and increasing the risk of some failure to the vehicle. So this is reducing the risk of ongoing maintenance costs. Maintenance for the town also includes either increased outsourcing of maintenance as we grow, or increased in-house, which is staff and operations expense. So having that younger fleet reduces those risk exposures long-term financially for the town.
Thanks.
We do keep our more expensive, larger, that aren't part of this, as long as we can keep them functional and operational.
I do have a few questions.
Sure.
And I'm an apples to apples guy. So Ford was basically a non-option.
After our meetings, we did determine that, correct.
All right, and then Universal was a 9 of 13 at the time.
At the time.
We had the conversation.
Yes,
So
sir.
the numbers that we have are based on the 9, not the 13.
Correct.
Okay. Now explain the maintenance, I didn't write down the number, but it was $80-some thousand. Is that for 48 months for a specific number of vehicles, or is that a plan that we're buying into?
Yeah,
and that's
so.
how much it costs?
Yes, sir. So that first year, we would acquire 13 vehicles. For all 13 vehicles, the annual payment, including the monthly maintenance, would be $80,016. So you multiply that by 4, which would be $320,000 roughly dollars, would be the total leasing cost for those specific 13 vehicles.
Not just the maintenance?
No, sir. That's rolled into that figure.
Okay. And then explain, look, I was in auto finance for a long time, and ownership was always a thing. I never did a lease. I know fleet leasing's totally different, but what exactly is an open-ended 48-month lease?
To my understanding, it leaves the balance, the equity balance at the end of the term with the option, like I addressed Commissioner Tarnaski, to permanently acquire the vehicle. Otherwise, we're just going to turn the vehicle
So not
back in.
open-ended, as in we have choices if we decide we don't like a car after 28 months.
We also have that option as well. We can trade in as early as, Butch, is it 1 year? 12 months, yes, sir.
Well, I would think the car business in general, they would gladly trade you out at any time.
Sure.
With blank expense to do so. Okay. And then from the budget, and again, going off memory, 4th year, 5th year, we had a negative 46,000, 96,000. I don't remember exactly. I just remember it was a negative number. Savings. Where are we different here versus that?
I believe it was smoothed out by incorporating converting it from a 5-year CIP model to taking the entire fleet into account and smoothing it out over 8 years. I believe also that the first year of 13 vehicles may not have been accounted on that 5th year, so really it should be 13 plus, it appears to be the 20 cars, so that'd be 7 new vehicles. Rolling that initial 13 on a second new lease, if you will, I do not believe was incorporated at that point in time.
Okay. and this is just me, again, as Commissioner Joyner said, the will of the board, but I think with Ford being a non-option and Universal being an unknown apples to apples, I would have no issue with, do we have a replacement option, I guess is a better term, for the Ford? Are there dozens of fleet leasing companies, or is this just, there's really only 2 or 3?
From what we found, Enterprise seems to be a sole provider for a true leasing program.
Okay. And that's just, as a skeptic, if we can save $1 million over time, there should be hundreds of fleet leasing companies out there. But, again, I was in the auto finance side, so I was across the table from these guys, so I have a very different view of the car business.
Sure.
But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
I would just like to say, I think there's some good comments there. For me, seeing the numbers for the first time tonight, I would like, and like Commissioner Deloach just said, we don't have a whole lot of options right now, but I would like just a little bit more time to digest this. If we wait another meeting, is that going to affect anything? Are we still going to be okay, or is this a time-sensitive matter?
I do know that,
I know with the new year starting here soon.
Butch, can you step up and address just what impacts that would have on?
So, in order to get the vehicles that we're looking at trying to replace in the first year, there is that chip demand, that shortage, if you will. And so the timeline to place the order for these vehicles is June 25th, which happens to be prior to our June 28th next meeting. Basically what that would mean is if we don't get the order in by that date, we'll have to just push that back, and so the availability of the cars will just have to come later. That really just simply is all that means, is we'll just, push that down the line a little bit.
But the lease would start on delivery?
I'm sorry?
The
Yes.
lease would start on delivery?
Yes, sir. So the month we take possession of the car is the month that the lease begins. Not when we place the order. So we're not paying for something we don't have.
Yeah. This is not the first time that I've walked down a budgetary road with this finance team or this administration team that was new and different to me and that I didn't initially feel comfortable with. And I think in more than one instance, you guys have come out the second time and I felt completely comfortable with it. And I think that we can certainly get to that here. I've never approved a budget that had even 8 vehicles in it, much less one that had 20 in it. And I understand the model's different, but I guess my thoughts are, we've turned the whole model upside down. It might take me a little bit more time than the night to figure out an understanding of it. And I say that just because I don't want to be for lack of better terms, the idiot that approved leasing vehicles several years from now when I openly said I didn't completely understand it.
I'd rather the board be comfortable with the numbers and the process and us get our cars 2 weeks later, and take a little extra time. If Universal has a better deal than Enterprise, we want the better deal. And we're more than happy to try and get to apples and apples with them also. So we're completely open as staff. A leasing model, as I've mentioned to many of you, is new to me. But if I see something that's equivalent to avoiding a 1 penny tax increase over the same time period based on our current valuation, I'm giving it a serious look. And if I can get the same vehicles and same functionality, still be able to get them from local vehicles, still be able to do maintenance from local vehicles, but that's the deal. That's a better deal for the taxpayer from a manager's recommendation, which is why it's before you. But I want you to be comfortable. If we can take a couple more weeks and work through any questions with you, I'd be glad to do that.
How did we learn about this process? Is this something that finance found out about? Did we get approached by a leasing company?
Enterprise as a leasing model has been used by municipalities in many states for a number of years. In this case, a local sales rep reached out to the local municipalities, Zebulon and Wendell staff, and staff, went through last year, just learned about it a little bit. I was skeptical and told them to look at comparatives and start working through numbers. They didn't actually solicit for the numbers until February, March, getting into specifics, so within this budget cycle. But our staff started looking at it last year. I actually had a couple citizens reach out in last year's budget that had been in public service in other states and asked why we weren't considering the leasing option, because they had saved money in their history. I would just offer, just because it's not prevalent in this part of Wake County, that it's not in use in other places. Typically what triggers it is there's a fleet size where the per vehicle savings over time is significant enough to deal with the finance administration on our part and the upkeep, and the increasing maintenance and operations expense on maintaining your fleet is that other kind of nebulous cost that's not factored into this. And so from what I started to communicate to our staff last year was I need to see that lift in our fleet size and understand what those true savings in an apples to apples comparison was. And so I put them to task the better part of a workday going through this, and I just it kept coming back to a basic number savings when comparing it. But I need y'all to get to a comfort level or not with this. I mean, we can continue to purchase vehicles. That's, we would not be able to purchase as many vehicles this fiscal year without adding money to the budget. We would definitely not be able to replace out vehicles as often as this schedule, and therefore we would have higher maintenance and operational expenses as a result. But that is still an option on the table for the town.
Well, I can say I very much appreciate this. You know, we didn't have this ahead of time, so thank you for that. Certainly helped. Appreciate that.
I would like to add that, as Mr. Mark stated, Zebulon has entered into the agreement with the Enterprise, and so we partnered with them last year, and they have taken the step, and that's already entered into the master agreement. As I think the town attorney can testify to that, because he looked at their agreement, and with the changes that were made on their behalf, he agreed to their changes, plus added a couple to make it fit for Wendell. So Zebulon has already gone down that path and entered into the agreement to move forward with Enterprise. Just want to add that. Not that it matters, but we did partner with them, and they decided to move forward.
Madam Mayor, I have a motion if you're ready for it.
Yeah.
Motion to table until our next meeting, approval of vehicle leasing agreement with Enterprise.
All right. So we have a motion to table it until our next meeting. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right.
If we could just get copies of those numbers, that'd be great.
Yes, sir.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, Board.
All right, item 6E is a downtown facade grant application for 18 South Main Street.
Madam Mayor, due to financial conflictions on my side, I'd like to, if I can get a motion to recuse myself from discussion.
Yeah, we need a motion to recuse Commissioner Lutz tonight. Who wants to make that motion?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, Commissioner Lutz, if you'd have a seat down in the peanut gallery. No, you can't leave. All right, Mr. Coates.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Item 6E is a downtown facade grant application submission for 18 South Main Street. We are asking for a motion to make a decision on the facade grant application. April 30th, 2021, an application was submitted to the Town of Wendell Planning Department by property owner Janelle Lutz for the Downtown Facade Grant Program. Janelle is here this evening. The applicant intends to completely renovate the facade at 18 South Main. Improvements include exterior paint, exterior shiplap siding at the front entrance, new exterior lighting, handrail replacement for handicapped accessibility, electrical wiring for new lighting, storefront window and door replacement, and an awning. The property is south of West 3rd Street and is within the downtown mixed-use zoning district. However, it is not within the designated historic district. It's just south of that. Total estimated cost for the facade project is roughly $60,000 for the facade part of the renovation. The amount applied for by the applicant is $10,000, and the program allows for a 50-50 match up to $5,000 from the town to the applicant based on project cost. This project includes eligible improvements as defined in the policy guidelines. The application was deemed complete with the project cost indicated and project details provided. On June 7th, 2021, the grant application was reviewed by the Appearance Commission and they recommended approval of the application. The facade improvement grant is funded through the fiscal year 2022 budget. Staff notes that the application meets the requirements of the current policy and approval is based on the availability of funds for the program. Currently, this is what 18 South Main Street looks like. It's the previous Bank of Wendell and had a short term in between of Wells Fargo. And this is the proposal of the renovations for the exterior of 18 South Main. This is the project that they've entailed meets a lot of the guidelines, all the guidelines in the policy. It's a thorough renovation of the exterior of the building. I can field any questions that you may have, and also the applicant is here as well.
Right. Are there any questions for Mr. Coates from the board?
Madam Mayor, I have a motion if you're ready for it.
I'm ready.
A motion to approve the downtown facade grant application submission for 18 South Main Street.
All right, we have a motion to approve the facade grant application for 18 South Main Street. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Just one comment, Madam Mayor. This is a great improvement, but also I think this is one of the things that, or one of the times that I can look at the facade grant program and say it's proving successful. It's creating redevelopment in our downtown core from existing businesses that are aware, and freeing up space in other parts of town for new businesses to come in.
Yep. Agreed. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, it passes unanimously. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lutz, you can come take your seat again. Section 7, other business. Item 7A is update on board committees by town board members. The only one we have tonight is the Wendell Volunteer Fire Department Board of Directors, Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was unable to attend the last fire department board meeting after conferring with Chief. Things continue moving well. There was from the county perspective, which obviously the county has a lot of oversight into our fire department. But the Fire Commission was restructured in its membership, and thankfully Chief was a part of that. My quick takeaway from that is where we previously could have had 2 total people on the Fire Commission, now we could have 3. Lightning would have to strike to get 3, but we could have 3. That's it for the fire department.
All right, Commissioners' comments will stay with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight has been, we're actually moving a lot quicker than I thought we would. But there's a lot of things going on. I got to talk to a lot of folks right before the meeting about citizen advisory boards. You heard me talk about during the billboard conversation how listening to our planning board made me happy. I was actually walking with my daughter down the street, had an AirPod in my ear listening to planning board, and I could hear the problem being solved as I was walking down the street. And by the time I got back, I looked at my wife and I said, well, It's funny, I think they came up with a better answer than what I thought the answer ought to be. So always nice to see that, but also appreciate that we've got a fast-growing community. The number of applications we've seen this year for every board is increased, and that's a good thing. And getting those folks to the table where they're helping guide those decisions is certainly appreciated. I will say that I remember years where we were not doing open calls from the dais, but getting pretty close. You know, if you were in the room, you were apt to be appointed. And that's no longer the case. But I want to say I greatly appreciate the folks that have gone through the process to apply. And if it doesn't happen this time, please keep applying. Please find ways to be involved, because it's certainly needed. Lots of fun things coming up. The town's got a 4th of July picnic planned. There's details online for that at the park. Check it out. Food trucks, bounce houses, all the amazing things that make you think of freedom. Only other thing, the mayor and I had an opportunity to have a meeting with Wake County Public Schools about future growth and future opportunities in Eastern Wake County. I think, at least for my part, I came away appreciative of how long a planning process the school systems work through, and it is a long process. Certainly appreciate being at the table and having a conversation about it. And I will continue to be an advocate for fair funding for education in Eastern Wake County, regardless of where a swing site is located, or regardless of the other dynamics. At the end of the day, they have a budget to balance, so do we. But certainly appreciated being included in that conversation, and we'll keep you apprised as we move forward on other ideas. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, Commissioner Boyette?
I just want to echo Commissioner Joyner's thanking everyone that applied for all the open positions that we had. Planning and economic development appearance, I know it's coming up. When I first got on the board, it was like pulling teeth trying to get applications. We almost could never fill spots, and now we have an abundance. And I would reiterate that if you didn't get it this time, apply again next time. I'd also like to thank staff. Staff's been working just overtime, and they kept working through the whole of the pandemic. Not that it's completely over, but I really feel like everybody's getting back in their groove and just firing on all cylinders now. So I just want to thank staff for all the hard work that they put in. I'd also like to congratulate my Wolfpack baseball team, who's going back to the College World Series. Woohoo. So that's all I have.
Go Pack. All right, Commissioner Lutz?
Yeah, I had some of the same thoughts tonight too with the applicants, and it's great to see a lot of people who've applied. We got to meet tonight. I don't know about you guys, I feel like we have a lot of people who have been living here for, years, 6 months, very short periods of time, who are ready to get involved, which is, real encouraging. Makes me feel like at least we have this energy still going forward for our town to continue to prosper. So, and then just speak to the facade grant approval. I appreciate the approval for that. It was my vision for years now to try to take something that was downtown and make it new again. And looking at many sites downtown that came available at different times, there was never one that really would work well for my business until this one became available. So we look forward to really getting it looking nice and making it something that's kind of anchors that south end of downtown for us. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Tornaski?
Good evening, Mayor. I'd like to make a comment and say thank the staff and the financial group that came up with our new leasing program to try to save the taxpayers of Wendell money and keeping our taxes down. Looking into other options. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Deloach?
Well, I will echo the same sentiments about involvement. We had quite a few people that chose to come in tonight to meet with us, introduce themselves. It's certainly nice to put a face with a name. Again, same thing. I remember sitting up here. I'm the new guy, and I've not been here very long, and I remember doing the whole hey, we need more applicants, we need more applicants. So, I'm happy to see that, the town has done a great job in advertising. We continue to promote. I know that, majority of the board is out and about promoting that all the time. And the fact that we're able to move the needle to get folks involved, to submit the applications, I really appreciate it. And I preach passion, I preach involvement all the time. And they've already said it, just because you weren't voted in tonight, certainly don't let that hinder you from being involved. So, much appreciated. And, I would have to mention that my Pirates did not make it to Omaha, so I will do one of these, screenshot it if you want. Congrats, Pac.
I will say, I heard there was some questionable officiating, so I'm kind of hating that for you. I did have someone send me that message, so I don't know. Sorry.
I did not wear purple tonight, but
Yeah. Well, yeah.
also didn't wear red, so you got it.
I wanted to take a moment to congratulate the graduates at Eastway High School that graduated this past Thursday, and their families, because I firmly believe your families and your neighbors and loved ones are a big part of what drags you across the stage, maybe in some instances, but gets you across the to that ending place where, and everyone is so proud of their kids. And it's been a crazy senior year. We're very proud of all of you for having withstood all of that, all these young men and women, and I can't wait to see all the wonderful things they accomplish. I feel confident that they will do great things. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend. It's the first one I've missed. Because of COVID, the numbers, it was very fluid, and I didn't get invited until the day before, and I had already made a commitment for that day that I actually tried to change it, but I was unable to change, so I was not able to be there, and I hated it. But best of luck to all of you. We have some news. Some people have mentioned it tonight. The town of Wendell is going to be holding a 4th of July picnic in the park on Sunday, July 4th from 11 to 2. I'm very excited about that. Food trucks, bounce houses, long games. You can bring food from home or purchase food there, or if some of the restaurants in the area are open, you can do that as well. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope that you will join us. It's kind of our first big hurrah since we're starting to be able to get together more, and I'm looking forward to that. The Wake County Public Schools meeting, yes, we did have a meeting this past Tuesday. I think it was, I left feeling pretty good about it. I am a gigantic advocate for our kids here. I don't think it's right, and I'll just tell you, when I go in schools, we'll start with elementary schools and other parts of the county, and I see outdoor classrooms and all these things, and then I see what is possibly going to happen here. I'm not happy about it. And so we've had to have some conversations about that in the past, and sometimes they're not pleasant, but I think we're starting off on a better road now, and my position is firm and has not changed on that. So hopefully we're getting back into CIP and things are going to be good in Eastern Wake County and Wendell particular. I also want to thank everyone who applied to serve on citizen boards. There have been times in the past where we have literally had to beat the bushes and beg, and so we appreciate that and appreciate the fact that people want to be involved. I think that this board and the board previous and then prior to that, there's change sometimes, things change, have worked very hard, and I think we've made it look too fun and everybody wants to be part of it, but that's a good thing. So there's great things happening in Wendell, and I'm thrilled for everyone to want to be part of it, and there's opportunities, maybe not on the citizen board here, but there are other things that you can do. The Chamber of Commerce is always looking for ambassadors and volunteers. The Meet on Main group is getting ready to rev back up, and they are looking for volunteers as well. So there's definitely chances for you to volunteer and be a part of all the great things going on in Wendell. I believe we have a motion to go into closed session.
Madam Mayor, motion to go into closed session in accordance with NC General Statute 143-318. point 11A, number 5, contract negotiation, and number 6, personnel matters.
All right. We have a motion to go into closed session. All in favor? All right.